Three Azure governance tools get confused constantly: Azure Policy, Azure Blueprints, and Resource Locks. People treat them as interchangeable, then wonder why their guardrails leak. They're not competitors, they solve different problems, and sometimes you use all three together. In the next 5 minutes, I'll show you what each one actually enforces, where each one hurts, why Microsoft is steering you away from blueprints, and a crisp rule for which to reach for. Let's draw it out. Azure Policy evaluates your resources against rules and acts on them continuously. A policy definition has a condition and an effect. The effects matter. Audit just flags non-compliant resources. Deny blocks the create or update outright, and DeployIfNotExists or modify remediate, adding a missing tag, deploying a diagnostic setting. You assign policies at management group, subscription, or resource group scope, and they keep evaluating, not just at deploy time. Classic uses: restrict allowed regions, enforce naming and tags, block public IPs, require a specific SKU group related rules into an initiative. Policy is your standing rulebook. Resource locks do one narrow thing: they protect against accidental change. There are two kinds. CanNotDelete lets you read and modify a resource but blocks deletion. Read-only blocks both modification and deletion. You set them at subscription, resource group, or individual resource scope, and child resources inherit them. They are not about compliance rules, they don't care about regions or tags. They're a safety latch over your production database or a shared networking resource group. One gotcha: read-only can break operations that look like reads but right under the hood. Azure Blueprints packages governance into one repeatable version bundle. A blueprint can contain role assignments, policy assignments, Azure Resource Manager templates, and resource group definitions, all deployed together when you assign it to a subscription. It even tracks the relationship between the assignment and what it created. Sounds great for landing zones, but here's the catch. Azure Blueprints is in preview and Microsoft has announced it's deprecated with retirement planned. They're pointing customers to template specs and deployment stacks instead. So check the current Azure docs before you build anything new on Blueprints. So policy versus locks, different jobs entirely. Policy is proactive and rule-driven. It decides whether a resource is even allowed to exist in the shape you want, and it keeps checking forever. A lock is a blunt, manual guard against a fat-fingered delete. Policy with a deny effect stops a non-compliant resource at creation. A lock stops anyone, including an automated pipeline, from removing an existing one. Use policy for what's compliant, use locks for what must not be touched. They overlap 0%, most mature setups run both. For the orchestration job, here's the trade-off today. Blueprints gave you versioning, a single assignment object, and built-in policy plus role assignment artifacts. Deployment stacks give you a managed group of resources you can update and delete as a unit, with deny settings that actually behave like locks on the whole stack, and it's the supported path forward. Template specs handle version shareable templates. The honest rule of thumb: don't start new work on Blueprints. Build landing zones with bicep, deployment stacks, and policy assignments, ideally driven from a pipeline. Here's the decision rule. Need to enforce a standard across many resources continuously? That's Azure Policy, your first reach, almost always. Need to deploy a consistent bundle of resources, roles, and policies as a unit. Use bicep with deployment stacks and template specs, not blueprints. Need to stop a specific critical resource from being deleted or changed by accident. Add a resource lock. They layer: policy sets the rules, your deployment tooling provisions the environment, and locks protect the crown jewels. Think rules, provisioning, and protection as three distinct layers. To recap, Azure Policy is your continuous rulebook with audit, deny, and remediation effects. Resource locks are a manual safety latch, CanNotDelete or read-only, against accidental changes. Blueprints bundled governance, but it's deprecated, so reach for deployment stacks and template specs instead. Your one action today: audit a production subscription, confirm policy is enforcing your standards, and put a CanNotDelete lock on anything whose deletion would ruin your week. And always check the current Azure docs, because these services keep moving. If this helped, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next video.